Education Association.
Your family might not understand why you're still mad about a 2019 play call, but we do. 1410 ESPN Radio, where you can argue about sports without worrying about getting uninvited to Thanksgiving.
All right, and we are off and rolling here on a Monday. The Justin Kinner Show, presented by Frickers. Frickers, your home for fun food, sports, and spirits. All right, for years, I feel like I was really having to work hard to find stuff to make fun of your Bengals for, but now they're just making it easy. They're just making it easy. Ever since like the Hawk Tua girl kind of disappeared because of, she was conning people with Bitcoin and all that stuff. Like it took a while, but Hawk Tua is officially back thanks to your guy Jamar Chase. I mean, what we got going on over there? What we got going on over there? See, this is why, when owners drag their feet on wanting to pay $40 million for somebody, it's because you got to be careful who you give that money to. Obviously, you're giving it to someone that is uberly talented, but also, I want to feel pretty good about having Jamar Chase as a teammate here today, or even as a fan. But I know how fans operate. You're going to find, I already saw one of the fanboy media guys earlier today. Oh, he had a little bit of a rough patch yesterday. What are we talking about? You just want it to where you could still be friends with him whenever you go stand by him in the locker room next week. So you're choosing your words carefully. Give me a break. Give me a break. But the Cincinnati Bengals go down yesterday 34-12. And once again, this is, I was wrong. I thought that for sure. I thought there was a good shot that the Cincinnati Bengals are going to beat the Pittsburgh Steelers. I thought Ben Roethlisberger was wrong. I didn't think there was a chance in hell that I didn't think at all that the Steelers were, going to shut down the Bengals offense. I thought that Joe Flacco, the way that he had been playing in the absence of Joe Burrow, I was rooting for that success to continue, because at the end of the day, it really did come down to me wanting chaos. I wanted the chaos. I wanted everything to I wanted it to get to the point to where Joe Flacco was playing at such a high level that it was going to make it difficult for the Bengals to say, hey, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. It's not that we don't want Joe Burrow back, but if it ain't broke, don't fix it type of thing. Well, Joe Flacco kind of came crashing back down to earth yesterday. Our guy, Kev Nash, he called it. He called it. He said that this was going to be the game where Joe Flacco kind of came back down to earth a little bit. Threw the ball 40 times, completing 23 of those. Threw for 199 yards, a touchdown, and an interception. But it was all in a day where the entire offense just did not play well. 12 points put up in an offense that you have Jamar Chase and T. Higgins. Chase Brown, 18 carries, 99 yards for him. Coming off of the bye week, of course. But outside of Chase Brown, Taj Brooks, 1 carry for 5 yards. Milton, 2 carries for 2 yards. Joe Flacco, he ran the ball 1 time. Finished with -1 yards on the day. Look, bottom line is, another game where the defense gives up 27 or more, 30 or more points yesterday. 34-12 was the final. TJ Watt, to his credit, smelled blood in the water. Joe Flacco was just right there, right for the picket, so he slammed him into the ground. Everyone said that was a dirty play. I don't think that's a dirty play. I think that was a smart play. We knew Joe Flacco's been nursing an injury. And Watt, who hasn't had a stellar year by any means, made his impact be felt yesterday. Good for Pittsburgh. That was a much-needed win for them because, look, as we all know, or at least as I know, the Ravens, this is their division. I still think the Ravens are going to win this division. I don't care that Pittsburgh won yesterday, but that was a much-needed win for them. They're sitting at 6-4. It looks like they're well on their way to knocking on the door potentially of Mike Tomlin continuing on his 500 streak. So that's going to continue. Now, they might be without Aaron Rodgers for a while, but we'll talk more about that and the impact it has on the AFC North as a whole. The bottom line is I thought that there would be enough noise from the Cincinnati Bengals and the Pittsburgh Steelers to kind of make Baltimore have to earn this a little bit moving forward. I don't think that's going to be the case. Good for Pittsburgh for getting that win yesterday, but the Baltimore Ravens, They figured it out. They didn't look their best yesterday either, but they've won 3 straight since Lamar has returned. They've won 4 straight overall. They're sitting at 5 wins and 5 losses, and they have the Jets, the Bengals, the Steelers, the Bengals. That's their next 4 games. That's their next 4 games. They're going to beat the Jets. They're going to beat the Bengals twice. That Steelers game's always an interesting one. But nonetheless, it's going to be interesting down the stretch to see how all that finishes out. But yesterday, and I feel like social media is just one of those things where Every single time I get on Twitter on a Sunday, it's the same thing. You people just spend your entire afternoon trying to convince the clouds that you need to fire Zach Taylor. Zach Taylor's not going to be fired, or at least in the middle of the season. The one thing I was very defensive of Zach Taylor on is the fact that, hey, he's an offensive-minded head coach. His side of the ball plays at a high level. And I think that's enough to kind of keep him going. Yesterday, though, when the defense is as poor as it is, and then the offense doesn't show up, then it makes it very difficult. I do think that the morale has finally reached an all-time low yesterday. Frustration's boiled over. Here's the problem I have with Jamar Chase. And this is anybody in life, by the way. Because when the offense is clicking and everything's going well and you're losing, Jamar Chase is still all smiles. Jamar Chase is fine. But when Jamar Chase isn't getting the ball and things aren't going his way and he's not putting up his numbers, now all of a sudden it's a problem. He's a child. He's a man-child. And that's the problem for the 3-7 Cincinnati Bengals, who are relying on him to be a leader in the absence of Joe Burrow. While Joe Burrow's out, somebody has to be a leader out there, and Joe Flacco has definitely been that. But when a franchise invests $40 million into you, I think it's pretty dang necessary that you step up and become a leader, not just off the field, but on the field as well. And I don't just mean statistically. I just mean, I don't know, by being a good human being overall. There's the picture that still floats around from when they played the Steelers years ago of him giving the double bird. Now he's spitting on other human beings because he's throwing a temper tantrum because, someone said something he didn't like. And then not just doing that, but then lying about it, outright lying about it. And then from what I've seen today, and again, they took this post down earlier. Yahoo Sports had shared that, Jamar Chase had refused to speak to the media. No, yeah, here it is right here. James Rapine earlier today. Jamar Chase declined to talk to reporters just now in the Bengals locker room. So there you go. The guy that he always has something to say. He always has something to say. He's never at a loss for words. This guy has no problem trying to find the right words to entertain everybody. But then today, he decides to be silent. I don't get it. Not a fan of it. If you missed it, Jamar Chase here in the post game yesterday had this to say when asked, "Hey, what led to that issue between you and Jalen Ramsey? Did you spit on Jalen Ramsey?"
I ain't never opened my mouth to that guy.
So what do you think prompted the reaction from him?
Well, he don't like some of the words I told him.
What are you saying?
I ain't spit on nobody.
For what? My goodness, it's hard to understand a dang word this guy says.
I ain't never opened my mouth to that guy.
I never opened up my mouth
what do
to
you
that
think
guy.
Prompted the reaction from him?
You don't like the words I told him?
Well, he don't like some of the words I told him.
What?
What are you saying?
I ain't spit on nobody.
That doesn't make sense. But the most important word of all of that, or the phrase of all of that, is I didn't spit on nobody. Come to find out, he did. He did. Big old loogie. Hawk Tua, just a big old loogie right on the guy. And again, at first, it was one of those where you saw that they were jawing, you saw that they were talking smack. Okay, cool. Whatever. It happens, especially Jamar Chase, who does a lot of smack talking himself. You're going to get it. But that's the thing. You can't act the way he does. And then when someone comes back at you with that same energy, then you spit on him like a child. That's a problem. That's a problem. And I don't get how Bengals fans condone that. I would hope to think that there's a lot of you out there that were embarrassed by his actions yesterday, because he is a big fan favorite. He is a guy that everybody, absolutely loves. And again, when this team wins games, he plays a huge pivotal role in that. So it should be embarrassing that guy is a guy that's out there spitting on people and then lying about it. You should be embarrassed by it. And I don't like when fans, I'm a fan of his no matter what. He had an off day yesterday. I don't want to hear any of the excuses. It's okay to say you don't agree with what an athlete did and still keep your fan card. It's totally fine. But all right, good stuff. It's the Justin Kinner Show presented by Frickers. Frickers, your home for fun, food, sports, and spirits. It's kind of hard to, it's really difficult when you watch the Cincinnati Bengals team right now and sit back and say, well, now what? Because I feel like it's been constant since week 2 of the NFL season. When Joe Burrow went down, it was, okay, now what? When there was no signs of hope, the team just quit and gave up. That's why they got their doors blown off by Denver. They got their doors blown off by Minnesota. Detroit did whatever they wanted against them. Then you get Joe Flacco. This team started playing with a little bit of hope again, and you saw some life against Green Bay. And then you beat the Pittsburgh Steelers. You should have beat the Jets. You should have beat the Bears. You head into the bye week. All the talks of Joe Burrow potentially coming back sooner rather than later. There was a lot to be hopeful for. There was a lot to go out there and fight. I don't mean fight like throwing fists and spitting and acting like a child. I mean fight for the season. I feel like the Bengals did everything they could to fight against it yesterday. What now for your Cincinnati Bengals? That's the big question. We'll discuss more when we come back. It's the Justin Kinner Show presented by Frickers, live here on a Monday. The Justin Kinner Show here on a Monday. Hope everybody's had a great week. I hope everybody had a great weekend and has had a great Monday. Bengals fans a little tough right now. Bengals 3-7 after their loss against the Pittsburgh Steelers, 34-12, the final yesterday. With the loss, the Bengals dropped to 3-7 on the season, as we talked about. And with that, of course, you take a look at those standings. When it comes to the AFC North, it just got a lot more difficult. The Steelers in first place at 6-4, the Baltimore Ravens 5-5, and now they're 3 games back of the Steelers, 2 games back of the Ravens. And while the AFC North, not even a week ago, from a lot of Bengals fans, including Bengals media and Bengals, personnel, Joe Burrow even said this division's wide open. I disagreed from the get-go. I did not think that it was wide open, but I did think that I think that, had they beat Pittsburgh, they keep that door open a little longer. I really didn't envision the Bengals losing. I'm not going to lie. I did not see that happening. In fact, I took not offense, but I was rolling my eyes at Ben Roethlisberger's podcast when he came out and said that there was no chance that Joe Flacco and the offense was going to do to Pittsburgh's defense what they did the last time. He said there was no chance. He said he was, he picked Pittsburgh to win by 14 plus. And I rolled my eyes. I said, absolutely not. This is going to be another one of those close games like we saw against the Jets and the Bears, like we see pretty much all Bengals games over the last couple of years, because that offense can score on anybody. And that defense, well, they can be scored on by anybody. I was expecting another one like we saw the last time. That wasn't the case. I was wrong. Ben Roethlisberger was right. I think the guy knows a thing or two about football. I think he's played a couple years in the NFL more than me, and I think he's won a Super Bowl. I think he has one more than I do, maybe two more. I can't remember. But the bottom line is the guy knew it was coming. We should have listened, I guess. Should have listened. I just wasn't expecting Cincinnati coming out of a bye week to look that flat. I expected more. I know it's different playing at Pittsburgh than having Pittsburgh at home to rally behind your fans, but at 3-7 now, looking up at teams like the Miami Dolphins, who are 4-7, the Ravens and the Chiefs are 5-5, the Texans are 5-5, the Jaguars is 6-4. Like, this is the third straight year where the Bengals are not going to make the playoffs during the Joe Burrow era. And it's really kind of hard to wrap your mind around that. And you could sit there and say, well, how many of those years has he been injured and out? It doesn't matter. He plays a role in that. Is it necessarily his fault that he gets hurt? No, but he does get hurt. This is a results-based business. It doesn't matter. What it sounds like is he's just not reliable because he's always hurt. If you've missed two of the last full season, if you've missed two of the last 3 seasons, maybe not the entire season, but the majority of them. I mean, again, 2.5 years ago, he gets hurt and misses the whole back half of the season, and they end up losing, right? They end up losing and missing the playoffs. Now, they still finished 9-8. They still finished above 500. But again, no Joe Burrow there to close out the deal. And then last year, you get Joe Burrow for the full season. You still miss the playoffs. Maybe not his fault, obviously, with how bad that defense is. And then being out pretty much all of this season, it doesn't matter. You can't sit there and say, well, if he would have been out there. Yeah, well, he's played long enough in the league to where we can have the discussion of he's rarely ever out there for long stints of time. Last year was the outlier. Last year, it was more likely the outlier than anything else when it comes to the Cincinnati Bengals team. So now the question becomes, what next? Because what I would be disappointed about is the effort that they showed coming out of the bye week. This is where I start to get on the side of those who want Zach Taylor gone because that's on coaching. Zach Taylor, I think, has done a great job over the years of keeping this team motivated, even in the absence of Joe Burrow, and you have to give him credit for that. He won games with Jake Browning, not this season, obviously, but the Bengals won games in Joe Burrow's absence with Jake Browning. They finished above 500 that season with Jake Browning. Right? You look at what they're doing with Joe Flacco, a 40-year-old quarterback who's been playing with one arm for the last couple of weeks. You know what I mean? Like, their offense has been the best in the NFL. Obviously, those numbers took a hit yesterday. But for them to be playing at such a high level in the absence of Joe Burrow, you have to give Zach Taylor credit for that. You can't sit there and just say, hey, look how well this team's playing. Thank God, because they have a bum coach. It's not how it works. But yesterday, I have a huge problem with the way the Bengals came out flat. They came out flat. Offensively, just didn't have it. Defensively getting pushed around again by the Pittsburgh Steelers, who, by the way, lose Aaron Rodgers, and the backup quarterback comes in and has just as much success against this defense, giving up 34, whatever his points. Like, that's a problem. It was a divisional game, a chance to make a statement in the division, a chance to make a statement coming out of the bye week. And now, in trying to find a way to ride the momentum of all the news about Joe Burrow potentially coming back sooner rather than later, it does sound like that Thanksgiving night matchup against the Ravens, now that it means technically nothing at this point, but it sounds like that is a pretty realistic goal to get him back by. Now the question is, what for? You get him back for what exactly? I think only bad things can happen by Joe Burrow coming back, as wild as that sounds. For one, I think he needs to be back. He's paid a lot of money. Get your ass out there and play. If you're capable, I think he should be out there. But I do think that there is a lot of bad that can come with him playing. For instance, what if the Bengals do start winning a lot of games down the stretch when Joe Burrow comes back? But it's too little too late. You've lost 7 games. You're not going to, you know what I mean? It's not like you only have one loss remaining and you're going to win the rest. You're going to lose 1, 2, maybe 3 more games the rest of the way. But let's say you start to win from Thanksgiving on, you win out, but you lose another game or two. You're going to lose to the Bills. You're going to lose stuff like that. You know what I mean? Like, so you win out once you get Joe Burrow back, but you still miss the playoffs. That almost hurts you because the front office says, see, Joe Burrow being out, that was the problem. We'll get him back next year, and we'll be just fine. This was the problem last year. I thought that the fact that Joe Burrow played so well last year and that the offense played so well last year, I thought that the fact that they won 9 games last year, I think that clouded the judgment of the front office because I think that they truly believe that they were closer than what they actually were. I think that Duke Tobin and Blackburn. And I think that, the Brown family, I believe that all those dopes truly thought, man, look at us. We won 9 games, and how many of those losses were by one possession? Look at Joe Burrow, how great of a year he had. And, he's only going to continue to put those numbers up. We're a lot closer than you think. I think last year was the absolute worst thing that could have happened. Joe Burrow having an MVP-like season, winning 9 games, all while having a historically bad defense. And it impacted the offseason. I truly believe that front office were a bunch of dopes and thought we're a lot closer than most think. You're not. You're not closer than most think. Joe Burrow's really, really good when he's out there. Jamar Chase, when he's not, being a bonehead and spitting on people and acting like a child, he's the best receiver in football. T. Higgins is the best number 2 receiver in football / one of the top ones. But outside of that, this team, stop me if you've heard me say this before, this team can't protect the quarterback. This team can't run the football. This team's defense stinks. Joe Burrow can't stay healthy. It's the same song and dance every single season. So now you want to get Joe Burrow back. That's great. But what happens if you start winning games when Joe Burrow comes back? You win games to finish at 8 or 9 wins, still miss the playoffs, and start this song and dance all over again? I think for this team to truly, because the sad thing is missing the playoffs for 3 straight years isn't rock bottom. Because if you miss the playoffs for 3 straight years, winning 8 or 9 games for 3 straight years, and you have that constant thought of, well, if Joe Burrow would have been healthy, we would have been fine. I think that thought process is actually hurting the Bengals' big picture more than anything else. I wouldn't want Joe Burrow back if I'm a Bengals fan. I would say, you know what? I don't want to see you play the rest of the season. We're not going to make the playoffs. The only thing that can happen when you come back is if the offense erupts again, you look great, we win games to close out, we still just miss the playoffs, and then we do this whole song and dance of, well, maybe if we, we're this close. If Joe Burrow's just healthy next year, we'll be just fine. That's the game that the front office is going to play moving forward. The game of, if Joe Burrow's healthy, we might be fine. That's the gamble that they're going to take every single season moving forward. They paid him, they paid Jamar, they paid T, and the rest is, well, if they're just healthy, that's our only shot, and that's what we're going to roll with. I don't see major changes coming. I don't see how that's going to happen. And I do think Joe Burrow coming back is going to damage this team more. Not his fault, per se. I'm just saying him coming back and then playing well and then winning games, meaningless games, by the way, then they miss the playoffs. I just don't see how that helps this team. For one, it gives you a worse draft pick, and that's the thing. And people get on me all the time when I say this. When the Bengals won 2 games, I'm not going to give Duke Tobin credit for drafting Joe Burrow. You needed a quarterback. The best quarterback in the draft was available for you at 1. It's not like you found a diamond in the rough. It's not like, hey, well, everyone was looking at everyone was looking at Tua. You took a chance on Joe Burrow, and man, look, you were the real winner here. Everyone and their mom who needed a quarterback was going to take Joe Burrow at 1. And then T. Higgins, who was a first-round caliber wide receiver that just happened to drop to the second round. You took him with the very first pick in the second round. I'm not going to give Duke Tobin credit for that. They needed another wide receiver. You knew that Tyler Boyd getting older, you gave him money. Like, you had all these older receivers. Like, you had to get better at wide receiver. I'm not giving him credit for taking the best wide receiver. Where I give you credit is taking chances on guys deeper in the draft that nobody else will. I love the Logan Wilson get. In fact, the only true draft win over the last 3, 4, 5 years is the one guy that you just quit on and shipped him off to Dallas as of late. Because everything else has been an absolute disaster. It's easy to draft Jamar Chase, a generational talent, when you're picking in the top 5. It's easy to pick a Joe Burrow and a T. Higgins. What's not easy is when you got to pick in the middle of the first round and all the elite guys have been kind of, stepped over, taken already. Now you got to gamble with the Shamar Stewarts. Now you got to gamble with guys like that, and that's what's going to happen. Joe Burrow comes back. You're going to win some games. You're going to have a later first-round pick with a front office that you don't trust to make the right selection there. Man, oh, man. I see a lot of comments coming in. We're live on the Justin Kinder Show Facebook page. Go and check that out. Jump in on the conversation there. I'll get to some of these comments in a moment. But the big what's next for the Bengals. Like I said, you think about this. It's like when Joe Burrow went out, it's like the life of this team just disappeared. That's why they got embarrassed against Minnesota. They got embarrassed against Denver. They got embarrassed against Detroit, and then all of a sudden they make the trade for Joe Flacco. Then there was hope. Then they started playing hard again. And then they looked really, really solid against the Green Bay Packers. They beat Pittsburgh the following week. And then they looked outstanding against the Jets and the Bears. The problem is defensively, they were horrendous, and that's why they lost those games. But it still felt like with the way Joe Flacco was playing at the quarterback position, with the way the offense was clicking, they were going to continue to have chances to win games coming out of the bye week, including game 2 against Pittsburgh. And that ended up not being the case because not only did the defense not show up, which wasn't a surprise, the offense completely collapsed and disappeared. And now this team feels as deflated and hopeless as ever. And maybe, just maybe, when Joe Burrow comes back, they'll resurrect and come back to life again. But the problem is you're running out of time, if not already run out of time altogether. 7 losses, 3 wins, 7 losses. The team that's sitting in the 7th spot in the wild card is sitting at 6-4. You would have to battle it out with Kansas City and Baltimore. Baltimore is going to win this division. So you're going to be battling it out with Pittsburgh, who at least has somewhat of a competent defense and just enough offensively to be dangerous. I'm not picking Cincinnati over Miami, Baltimore, Kansas City, Houston, Jacksonville. And it's unfortunate, too, because the Bengals don't even have to be elite to make the playoffs this year because Miami's not very good. Baltimore's vulnerable. Kansas City, this is as weak as I've seen them in years. Houston's all up and down. They're 5-5 at 500. Jacksonville 6-4. I don't trust them. They're sitting in the number 7 spot. And the Chargers just absolutely got embarrassed yesterday. And I like the Chargers. I like Harbaugh. I like Herbert. They got absolutely embarrassed by the Jaguars. They didn't just lose. They got beat down 35-6. This is a year that the Bengals could have been flawed and still won a lot of football games because of how weak the AFC is at the bottom. And instead, they decided we're not just going to be average, we're going to be below average. We're actually going to have a historically bad defense. This was just the worst timing to be the worst version of themselves at the end of the day. 937-518-1410. I am curious people's thoughts on this. I see everyone coming in on the chat. I'm going to respond to everyone in the chat when I come back. The Justin Kinder Show Facebook page. We stream there live every day. You can watch the show. When you message into the show, I'll pull your comments into the show and interact with you that way. So that's one way. Or you can give us a call, 937-518-1410. Joe Burrow might come back here in a few weeks, and I guess the question is for what? I think Joe Burrow coming back is going to do more damage than anything else. It's going to give the front office an excuse to do what they did this past offseason, again, this upcoming offseason. Absolutely nothing. We'll pick up with this more when we come back. We'll get into the Browns and the handling of Shedeur Sanders as he made his NFL debut yesterday. It went about how you thought it would. Not a whole lot of production, but a lot of noise. So we'll get to that coming up here shortly as well. It's the Justin Kinder Show presented by Frickers. 937-518-1410. Give us a call.
Well, he don't like some of the words I told him.
That's what he's saying.
I ain't spit on nobody.
Yeah, but he kind of did. He kind of did spit on him because he didn't like some of the words I told him. So that was the quote from Jamar Chase, whatever that means. Not a good look for him yesterday. Look, we know Jamar Chase is a hothead. We know that he's a very arrogant individual. We know that, he's the type of personality. This is why, like, when I hate on Jamar Chase, everyone's like, oh, you're just jealous because he's not on your team. If you want to word it that way, fine. But I will say this. I think he's the kind of personality that you only like if he's on your team. I don't think he's a very likable individual. I think he's a very arrogant and cocky dude. He says a lot of really stupid things, in my opinion. I remember when he did the double bird in the middle of a game against Pittsburgh a few years ago. I thought that was classless, but you guys prop that stuff up because, hey, it's cool when he does it because he's your guy. And then he spits on somebody yesterday. You guys right away, said, oh, that, he said he didn't spit on anybody. I'm going to take him at his word. And then the video surfaces because, we're in 2025 and that's how this stuff works. It's a bad look with all the noise that's going on in Cincinnati right now. What you don't need is your $40 million a year wide receiver out there spitting on people like a classless human being. And that's what he is. Because you didn't just spit on somebody, you then lied about it and you've made this entire situation way more messy than it needs to be. We're not just talking about a team that continues to lose week in and week out. We're not just continuing to talk about a team that has had a historically bad defense. We're not talking about a team that, everyone wants the head coach fired week in and week out. Now we're talking about a guy that's making $40 million a year who got his feelings hurt from some words and decided to spit on another human being and then tried to play dumb as he didn't know why he just got his ass kicked in the middle of the field. And it's all because he's a child, and it's all because he wasn't playing well, and it's all because he got popped in the back earlier, and instead of being a football player and trying to get him back physically, he just decided to spit on him. It's gross. It really is. And I don't care if you're a Bengals fan or not. If you condone it or if you think, oh, he just had a bad day at the office, then you're a problem too. Because that's messed up beyond belief. And you know what? He deserves a suspension. I think it deserves more than just one single game, by the way, but who knows? I've been refreshing it throughout the show. I haven't come across anything as far as what the final punishment's going to be, but and if the Bengals had any kind of self-respect as well, they'd come out and say, hey, we know the NFL is going to come out with the suspension, but we're going to suspend them on our own as well because we don't condone this either. But they're a classless organization that won't do that as well. So we should all just sit here and wait for the NFL to do their work for them. But it is what it is. But Brian Weaver on Facebook said the NFL set a horrible precedent by suspending Carter for only one game for his Hawk Tua situation. Chase needs a 2-game suspension, one for his Hawk Tua and the other for lying. By the way, when you think about the context of what Hawk Tua is, it's not the same thing as just spitting, but that's besides the point. But anyways, it's just weird that people keep throwing that out there. The starting next year, it's an auto 4-game suspension without pay. I agree about that. I mean, again, it's an assault crime. If I just go up to a coworker here and spit at somebody, oh, it's just a disagreement between coworkers. No, that's a crime. Jamar Chase had, the $40 million entitled, spoiled brat, had some words that he didn't care for, and he decided to spit at another human being. Yeah, I don't think I'm being too harsh by saying he needs more than a 2-game suspension. I think it needs to be a lot more than that. And you know what? With the way his attitude is, I'm sure he would be fine with it because he wouldn't have to go out there and participate in the calamity that has been this season at the end of the day. So, just an absolute joke. Absolute joke. Shaw says, when did it become cool to spit on someone? I have no clue why we're seeing an uptick in that. In the NFL of all places. And I'm not condoning it in high school, but you expect to see it in high school, from a bunch of testosterone-filled, young adults who are still trying to figure life out as high schoolers. Not even young adults, they're children. You expect that from them. Don't condone it, but you expect it. You expect young kids like that to make mistakes, not grown adults who are making $40 million a year, acting like fill in the blank with whatever word you want to use. It's absolutely embarrassing at the end of the day and should not be tolerated. And I hope that the NFL comes out with a very strict punishment. That's not just oh yeah, hey, by the way, you get a 1-game vacation this week, enjoy an extra bye week. Shaw says Chase is trash. There's no excuse in what he did. I'm surprised there was only one punch. Yeah, he's lucky there was only one punch. So is what it is. But all right, I'm Justin Kinner. It's the Justin Kinner Show, 1410 ESPN Radio. We welcome you back. We're talking about Joe Burrow and potentially, coming back in the next couple of weeks. And like this team has been fueled off of hope throughout the year. When, it felt like they weren't going anywhere anytime soon, they kind of quit on the season, and it looked like they quit against Minnesota. It looked like they quit against Denver and Detroit. But then you get Joe Flacco back, and it's like, oh man, we have something to play for. We might have a shot here. Let's play hard again. Boom. And they look like a completely different football team. Yesterday looked different. I don't know what it was. I feel like this team kind of quit. I think that we saw the unraveling start to happen against the Bears as that game concluded. With the way that game finished, with the way that the Bears won that football game, we started to see the unraveling of everything. And then you go into the bye week. It's something I talked about with Jay Morrison, who covers the Bengals. I asked him, did that bye week come at a good time or a bad time? Like, would you have rather gotten out there right away a week later, or did you need that bye week at that exact time to kind of decompress a little bit? He said he felt it was a good timing, good time for the bye week, just considering the circumstances that this team needed an opportunity to diffuse a lot because there was a lot of built up frustration and anger in that locker room. And all I feel that it did is it gave them 2 weeks to, sit there and pout and feel sorry for themselves, because that's not the same team that came out yesterday that we watched come out against the Jets, where they set the tone early. Like, at least the offense. The offense set the tone against the Bears. They set the tone against the Jets. They set the tone against Pittsburgh early on, right? I know they were down 10-0, a month ago when they first played the Steelers, but then the offense started just coming to life. The defense came out as embarrassingly bad as they always have, and the offense really just never started clicking at all. So, to me, what it says is they don't even care that Joe Burrow is coming back, that they've quit on the season, because they know. It's one thing for us to wonder if they could do it, to wonder if they could do enough even when Burrow comes up. They're telling you, because they've already told us, when there's something to hope for, they come to life again. And when there's nothing to play for, they disappear. They disappeared yesterday. So what that tells me is Joe Burrow trying to come back, it doesn't mean anything. The team's telling you. Their effort, the way that they look and the way that they play and the way that they tried on that field yesterday, to me, that tells me that that's a locker room that is saying it doesn't matter if Joe Burrow's coming back or not. We don't have a shot. So rushing Joe Burrow back in the next couple of weeks accomplishes absolutely nothing other than pushing this team further back from what it wants to ultimately accomplish, which is getting better. I think that the problem is if Joe Burrow comes back and they start winning football games, that's going to be enough justification for the front office to say, see, when we had Joe Burrow, we were 2-0. When we lost Joe Burrow, we only won 1 game. And now that Joe Burrow's back, we're winning games again. See, we don't need to be that aggressive this offseason. What this team needs is to hit rock bottom. And I don't think they've hit rock bottom yet. I thought last year was rock bottom when you have Joe Burrow throw for 4,700 yards, 45-plus touchdowns, completing 70% of his passes, and having an MVP-like season that was squandered because, the defense was so bad. But they won 9 games. The Bengals hurt themselves almost by winning, as goofy as that sounds, with Joe Burrow. This team has to hit rock bottom to get that old man's attention over there in Cincinnati. It's the only thing that's going to work. I said the same thing about the Cincinnati Reds. I was excited that they made the playoffs this year, but I feel like it's going to work against them because now the Castellinis and now the front office and Nick Craw and Brad Meter and those guys can sit back and say, this is we're bringing back our entire playoff team. This is a good enough team to compete. You know what I mean? Like, you have Hunter Green, you have Nick Lodolo, you have Chase Burns, you're getting, Rhett Lauder back. You're bringing these guys back all from last year that were part of that playoff nucleus, if that's what you're going to call it. Like, the Reds will be punished for winning last year. And I feel like that's what happened last year for the Bengals. They may not have made the playoffs, but they finished with 9 wins. They were punished for winning because they showed that they were close. And that's what the Bengals think, is that they're close, and they're not close whatsoever. They told you that with their efforts in free agency and their delusional draft that they threw out there. Other Bengals news, by the way, something to keep an eye on as well. It does look like Cam Taylor-Britt is going to be out for the season and possibly done as a Cincinnati Bengal. That could be it for him moving forward. So about half hour ago, it was reported that Bengals cornerback Cam Taylor-Britt likely needs surgery per Zach Taylor, which will end his season. Goodberry goes on to tweet that, and likely to end his Bengals career. Taylor Britt's arc and development is one of the best examples for why they have almost nothing to show for the last 4 years of drafting defense. You know, he showed some high-end potential as a rookie and has fallen flat on his face ever since. Matt Fink on Facebook. Again, Matt Fink is on the Justin Kinder Show Facebook page. Appreciate him chiming in here. But as far as his thoughts are concerned, he shared this, that without Burrow, Chase is the face of our franchise, and he goes out there and spits on another human being while we are getting our behinds kicked. It's embarrassing. It's so hard being a fan of this team. I agree. Like, Joe Flacco has been a great step-in de facto leader, but Joe Flacco is not like a true Bengal. I think he has enough clout where he demands the presence in the locker room. But I think when things start to really snowball, I don't think he has enough face in that locker room because he's not a real Bengal, and he's not a Bengal. He was a rent-a-cop. He was a rent-a-quarterback. He was a guy to come in and stop the bleed. He was a Band-Aid. You know, it wasn't a surgical repair. It was just simply a Band-Aid until Joe Burrow got back. So while, and he wasn't just one of those boring Band-Aids, when you're a kid, you can get like a regular Band-Aid, or you can get the ones with like dinosaurs and all the cool characters on it. That's Joe Flacco. He's a cool Band-Aid. He's that Band-Aid that, you like to show off that Band-Aid to all your friends and stuff. That was Joe Flacco. But ultimately, that Band-Aid has to be ripped off. It's not a real healing element to this team. So there's nothing that Flacco could have done to help this team any more than what he already has. So you have to look to a lot of you guys that are remaining that are true Bengals that have been drafted by the Bengals, that have been all-time greats with the Bengals, that the Bengals have invested into. You got to look at those guys. And now you look at Jamar Chase and you look at T. Higgins, and I'm like, T. Higgins, that's a guy to me that's worth more than Jamar Chase. Is he better than Jamar Chase? Hell no. He's a better human being. He's a better representative of your franchise, and he's a guy that you can count on when things aren't going well. Things have not gone well this season. T. Higgins, we've talked about the fact that, there's a concern about him being able to stay healthy. He's been out there, and he's been making big catch after big catch, regardless of who's throwing him the football. He did it yesterday even. And he's not out there flipping double birds. He's not out there making stupid comments to the media. He's not out there, spitting on people. To me, T. Higgins is a better representation of what you want this Bengals team to be like than Jamar Chase. And I think the fact that he makes $40 million makes this whole situation even worse. And I think that's what, it's gross what happened yesterday at the end of the day. All right, I'm Justin Kinner. It's the Justin Kinner Show, 1410 ESPN Radio, 937-518-1410. That's the number to jump in and join the conversation. Chad Kinser, what up, Chad? Chad says, this is about Joe Burrow. Chad says, he doesn't need to come back. I want to see the first ever 3-time comeback player of the year. Exactly. You can't win that award if you come back in the middle of the season. You need to come back next year, to be in the running for that. I see what you did there. Nonetheless, let's see, back to this. So Donald Hutton Jr., I said for a long time they need to trade either T. Higgins or Chase to get draft picks and build their defense. There are plenty of wide receivers you can draft. I said it from the beginning. If Joe Burrow is as good as he says he is, and we know how good he is, it's just, can he be as healthy as what he likes to pretend to say he is? Jamar Chase is a luxury item. But a team that has this many holes and is as this bad on one side of the ball as they are, having Jamar Chase, you've accomplished nothing with him because of that. $40 million can go a long way on a defense to put you in position to actually win football games instead of spending time in the middle of the season talking about how your $40 million wide receiver spit on another human being. That's not a guy I would want to keep around in my locker room. That's not a guy that I want to be one of the faces of my franchise, because whether you like it or not, he is. A guy that spits on the guy that gives the double bird and spits on other human beings is the second highest paid player on this team and is the second face of the franchise on this team. I wouldn't want that. Joe Burrow, T. Higgins, take Jamar Chase's $40 million, go sprinkle that all over the defense, and you have an instant contender. By the way, I'm here to tell you, you don't have Jamar Chase and you have that $40 million and you have T. Higgins as your number one wide receiver and you put $40 million in that damn defense, this Bengals team with the healthy Joe Burrow is winning this division, and it's not even close. It's not even close. Either way. Would you look at that? Hour number 1 in the books. That was fast. No, Ron, I'm not avoiding talking about my team. We're going to get to the Cleveland Browns in just a moment. Chad Kinster said you can't build a defense through the draft if the person making the picks has absolutely no idea what the hell he's doing. Tobin has proven time and time again that he has had no damn clue. I agree. That's why, like, where does your guys, like, I don't get it, Bengals fans. Where does your confidence in this team come from? Because you guys talk so much smack to me and everybody at the beginning of the season. But where's that confidence coming from? Because there's no need to feel confident about this team at all. You could feel confident about Joe Burrow and his ability to go out there and throw the football when he's healthy. You could feel confident about Jamar Chase, about going out there to be the number one wide receiver in football when he's not acting like an idiot and spitting on other human beings. But then there's the offensive line. You know that they can't draft or develop the offensive line. To their credit, they tried investing into it. They go getting Orlando Brown Jr. and others, but it just hasn't been enough. Running the football. You get a Chase Brown and others. Chase Brown's okay, but like you're not hitting home runs there either. You can't draft. There's like nothing about this franchise that makes you feel warm and fuzzy inside. Say what you will about Cleveland because they have all of their dysfunctions as you will. That's a team that could draft very well. They could draft the tight end position well. They could draft running backs well. They draft the offensive line well. They draft defense well. They just probably had arguably the best draft of anybody this coming off year. To Cleveland's credit, they find other ways to screw it up, don't get me wrong. But Cleveland's ability to spend money, a cash-rich owner, spending money, and their ability to draft will always make me feel better about them than about the team that has the one piece I really want, which is a franchise quarterback, but can't do anything else right. Cleveland and Cincinnati, it's so funny. Cleveland they do all the stuff right that Cincinnati can't. Cincinnati does all the stuff right or the one thing right that Cleveland can't. And if one of those two franchises ever figures it out, like say what you want about Cleveland, if they ever accidentally stumbled upon a quarterback, Cleveland is pretty freaking good. And if Cincinnati ever just stumbled upon a linebacker or two, they'd be more than freaking good. But Cincinnati, they don't do anything else right. What else do they do? They could draft quarterbacks well. That doesn't help you. They could draft wide receivers well. Well, maybe. How's Burton and how's some of these other draft picks worked out? Not really well. Cincinnati doesn't do anything well anymore. There's nothing that they do to make you feel better about the future and the direction of this franchise. And you're hopeless because they're not moving on from Duke Tobin. You want them to move on from Zach Taylor. I don't even know if I would put money on them firing Zach Taylor. I don't think that they will. We've been through this song and dance with Marvin Lewis before. At least Marvin Lewis, you were just pissed because they couldn't win once they got to the playoffs. This dude's about to go year number 3 without even getting to the playoffs. I don't know. Hour 2 next.
From kickoff to cash out, ESPN Bet has the tools you need to score more on.
James at Ohio State. Visit cancer.osu.edu/choosethejames.
Zach Taylor addressed the media a little bit ago about everything that went down yesterday in the Bengals 34-12 loss against the Pittsburgh Steelers on the road. Not a good response here from old Zach Taylor. And by the way, when coaches get put in this spot, I don't know really what we expect. It's not like I truly expect them to say, hey, we're cutting this play. Maybe they should, but that's not going to happen. Jamar Chase is not going to be cut. I mean, I'm not idiotic to think that or suggest that. But to have your head coach, after you spit on another human being, come out, and this is why, like, when Jamar Chase is disrespectful to Zach Taylor, it drives me nuts. Like, another disrespectful thing that Jamar Chase does is when Jamar Chase has a bad game or he's throwing a tantrum and not getting the football, he has a habit of saying, ask Zach, not ask coach, or you'll have to ask the coaching staff. It's very personal and direct. It says, I don't know, ask Zach. He's a freaking child. I can't stand Jamar Chase. I've told you guys this for years. Okay. Yesterday just proved all of it. I mean, it's not new. I'm not just, I like Jamar Chase. Now I don't, because no, I've always been anti Jamar Chase, the person, but he's always backed it up with his play on the field. But there's nothing you could do on the field to back up spitting on another human being, especially because you didn't like what he said. But of course, Zach Taylor, who's an idiot, goes out and defends Jamar Chase and says, I stand by Jamar. It was an emotional moment, and a lot happened before that led up to it. So you're saying that there are things that could happen to justify spitting on somebody else. I would like to know what. Oh, was it when he did the crackback block on him earlier? Oh, you mean playing football means you're allowed to spit on somebody. It was a cheap shot. Jamar Chase takes cheap shots at people all the time, whether it's verbal or physical. That's just who Jamar Chase is. You can't be Jamar Chase. You can't have his personality. You can't say the things that he does and carry himself a certain way, and then have your boneheaded coach sit there and say something stupid like, well, a lot happened leading up to that. I disagree with that wholeheartedly. I'm not okay with that. And look who it is. Oh, I should make you have a camera on you. I should make you have a camera on you.
Oh, no, my headphones aren't working.
But the mic is, so you're good.
Okay.
You're golden.
Hello.
Mr.
Can
Kev Nash,
hear me?
Steelers fan.
What up, though? Can everybody hear me?
Yeah.
Oh, okay, cool. No headphones. Fine. I guess I won't take calls. But so did I just hear somebody try to justify it?
Zach Taylor.
Come on.
The head coach. I thought you were coming in to get mad at me.
No,
I was like, oh, man.
No.
Zach Taylor says, I stand by Jamar. It was an emotional moment, and a lot happened before that led up to it.
So he stands by Jamar lying, or stands by him hak-toing somebody's
This
face?
was the whole. I think the game is a package of as a whole. Now, I always say it's tough on coaches because I don't expect a coach to go up there and bury a player and kick a player while he's down. But you don't have to say this either. Hey, we're handling it internally. He knows how to conduct himself, and that doesn't fit the way we want our guys to carry themselves. And we will talk about this more internally and leave it at that. But to say I stand by Jamar, it was an emotional moment. There was a lot that happened before that led up to it. It just sounds like you're basically saying that there actually are things that can be said to lead to justify spitting on someone and acting the way that he did yesterday.
Okay, so was this said directly after the game, or is this a statement made? Okay. So yeah, nah, coach. Now, if coach would have said that after the game, before all the 4K video started to come out around 6:00, the game ended at 4:05 or whatever. So
when you don't know all,
you don't know all the details, you don't have all the camera angles. But by 6:00, social media exploded with all the different camera angles of what Jamar did. Obviously, now that coach has seen it and that the world has seen it, I think he needs to be changing his tune a little bit about Jamar's actions. I really can't think of anything that someone could do to make you want to spit in their face. I don't get that. And I'm gonna say there's an epidemic going on in the NFL, but it does seem like it's happening a little bit more now, especially this season. I mean, shoot, I remember when Bill Romanowski spit in one of the San Francisco 49ers face, and it was just like the craziest thing anybody had ever seen. And also still to this day, that's completely crazy. I remember what an Oregon player did it to last year to David Igminosa. That happened to him. So it obviously Jalen Carter did it earlier in the season with the whole Dak situation. There was another incident in college recently. So I don't know what's going on. I'll be crazy to sit on here and be like, oh, this is why it's happening. I don't know why it's happening. I don't understand why people find it okay to spit on each other. Like, removing the fact that, like, hey, if you do that on the street, it's a assault charge. I mean, there's a lot of things that happen in sports that could be considered assault. So I'm not going to take it there. But what I will say is, you spit on another person, male, female, their, other, whatever you want to call yourself, it's go time. It's go time. And especially in this situation, there's no justification for it. And I haven't yet to hear anybody say it was okay. Like, well, you shouldn't have did that. I'm not a Cincinnati Bengals fan, not a Browns fan that hates the Steelers, not anybody in their right mind has said, like, oh yeah, well, Jalen Ramsey, he had it coming to him. Like, nobody said that. So I think everybody outside of Zach Taylor, of course, is like condemning what Jamar Chase did and then lied about. And then the video evidence comes out.
Now, that was a clip. Again, there's no audio with this. It was just Jay Morrison tweeting.
I would love to have the audio.
I'm
going to find the audio.
Jay Morrison, because there's two tweets. There's one that says, Zach said he did talk to Jamar about yesterday, but we'll keep it private. He said it crossed the line, and Jamar Chase knows that. He goes on to say, I stand by Jamar. It was an emotional moment, and a lot happened before that led up to it. Those are two separate tweets from Jay Morrison. Jay Morrison comes on the show regularly. He's not the shock jock guy. He's not the guy trying to put stuff out there for, without context or whatever.
Right.
So I trust Jay and use him for a lot of our content here on the
show.
So
reading that or hearing that from you and fully, I think the standing by Jamar is I'm standing by my guy. I don't necessarily think that it's like I'm standing by his actions.
No, and even I don't think that that's what but like, this is why you just don't say that at all, though, because of course you're going to stand by your guy. Like, unless you're cutting him or saying that there's no place for that here, we're getting rid of him, blah, blah, blah. Not saying that you condone it by keeping him, but like, that should go without saying that, yes, you're going to, I don't know. I don't think a coach even needs to say this, because it just sounds like you are, but to me, it's the end. Hey, Jamar, I stand by Jamar. He knows what he did was wrong. We talked about it, and we're just going to keep it in house. I read that. I'm done. I'm moving on. I'm not even stopping. But when it's the end that got me, it was an emotional moment. Well, yeah, it takes a lot to build you up to the point where you think it's okay to spit on somebody. Jamar, it was an emotional moment, and a lot happened before that led up to it. Okay, he got popped.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, we know what all, like, but Jamar also carries himself a certain way where he does a lot of talking. He does a lot. That's football.
Yeah.
So, but then when you don't like what someone says, that doesn't all this. Now you have I don't know. To me, it's that last line that I said, okay, no, I don't agree with that whatsoever. I don't care about the emotional buildup to it. We know what happened. We saw it.
Yeah, it's football. And just be clear, man. There's has to be something a little wrong with you to play football. Like, I know we love this game, we love the sport, but there's a extra violent nature to the sport, and us as fans, that's partially why we love it. It's like, hey, man, you're crossing, you're dancing on that line, and in Jamar's case, he crossed that line. There's a lot of things that you can get away with on a football field, pushing, shoving, just being super aggressive. That, is all good. Like, hey, man, that's just part of the game. Spitting is not a part of the game. It's not a part of anything. I can't think of anything that would get you to that point. But I guess going from 12 catches for like 200 yards to going to 3 catches to 30 yards. Like, I guess that's the short fuse for Jamar Chase. Like, basically getting shut out is the fuse that just makes him go over the edge to make him want to spit on somebody. And the worst part about it, and I know I'm coming from a Pittsburgh Steelers perspective, the worst part about this, it takes away from what the Steelers defense was actually able to do, and how they were able to win that game, because let's be clear, the offense was as usual, but the defense scored 2 touchdowns, coming off of a situation where the Cincinnati Bengals just basically did whatever they wanted a couple Thursday nights ago to this performance that they put up now. But it's overshadowed from the spitting incident. It's over the shoot. We're not even talking about Aaron Rodgers having a broken hand, because we're talking about somebody spitting in another player's face. Like, that's how big this is. And, their season is officially over in my book, the Cincinnati Bengals, because I'm expecting him to be suspended for a game, because that's a precedent the NFL set. So now you're without, your superstar quarterback. Now you're without your superstar wide receiver. Your defense is trash. So, yeah, I think the season is over for the Cincinnati Bengals after that loss.
Yeah, and it's disappointing coming out of the bye week. And because you always share when I talk smack about your team, I said, I was wrong because I said, I thought I played the clip of Big Ben last week, him coming out saying they're going to win by 14 plus. And I was like, well, he might know a thing or two more about football than I do. I was like, that's a ridiculous clip. I can't believe he would say that. If anything, I could see us replaying that clip, mocking him when we come back. I think the Super Bowl winning quarterback, the last good quarterback in Pittsburgh, kind of knows a thing or two of what he's talking about. So, but no, nonetheless, that was just epic, and Flacco, TJ Watt hasn't had a great year, but everyone say that was a dirty hit. No, that's football. You're playing with the bum shoulder and you're going to go out there and expose it. I don't even think it was a dirty hit. He drove him into the ground and got the penalty. You move on. I didn't, and I think a lot of you guys have taken dirty hits in recent years. That I didn't have a problem with that. I mean, he has that bum shoulder. That's just
It's
football.
it's football.
It's
It's
football.
sports. I mean, if you playing you're a basketball guy, Kenner. You call the games for the beloved Wright State Riders. Had a great weekend, I'm sure. If a guy is out there and he has a wrap on his hand, you're gonna test that hand.
Yep.
Like, what are you doing? Like, oh, he's got a banged up thumb. Let's accidentally smack that banged up thumb.
I was reaching for the ball.
Sorry, bro. Like,
Yep.
that's part of the game. Like, if somebody has a bum ankle and he's out there one-on-one with Jamar Chase and you're not throwing it to that cornerback side every single time, testing that ankle, there's something wrong with you as a play caller. So, yeah, physicality. It's part of the game. It's part of football. Spitting is not part of football.
Yeah. And
or any sport.
And for a guy that always has something to say, I do have a problem with him. He refused to speak to media today. I have a problem with that because there's only one thing you need to say to the media is, yeah, I was an idiot. My bad.
I don't think he needs to
Should've done that.
apologize to the media. I think the person he needs to apologize to is Jalen Ramsey for spitting in his face.
But in the day and age we live in, you do need to make that apology to the media, in my opinion. Like,
Really?
you're not apologizing to me, the host, or Kev Nash, the host, or the
I
reporter.
think that if he did that, it'd be predicating and it would be disingenuous. It would basically be up there. I'm here so I won't get fined.
Well, you should
Like,
be
I
there
would
because you're
rather-
embarrassed and say, I can't believe I did that. And if I did something like that, I would be giving a genuine apology, say, what the heck is wrong with me? I can't believe I did that. I apologize. I wouldn't have the mindset of, oh man, I'm only apologizing because I have to. I like I said, it's not, people say, oh, they're just football players. No, they're reality TV stars. That's how these athletes live their lives. That's just the nature of it, whether they want to admit it or not.
If he
Everything
doesn't
goes through
come
the
out
media.
and talk at all this week, then I'll have a problem because there is one day a week that players have to talk to the media. I don't necessarily think like today's that day. So if I was in charge of the Jamar Chase, PR team, I would let's get our ducks in a row. So make sure we're saying the right thing as opposed to going out there with emotions high again and saying something further to get myself into deeper trouble or hotter water, so to speak. So let's get these talking points right. And then when we come out and talk to the media on Thursday or whatever, we stick to the script because everybody's talking about it. Not just here in Dayton or in Cincinnati or in Pittsburgh. They're talking about it in LA. They're talking about it. It was one of the first stories that they ran on ESPN. Thank goodness ESPN is back. Shouts out to YouTube TV. They were talking about ESPN radio and, the big shows and everything like that on McAfee. It was nonstop about this situation. So if I was Jamar and his team, I would definitely wait until Thursday when they all talk to the media, have my talking points ready. Let's work on it like we're working on a speech for class in the mirror and stick to the script. No ad-libbing. Stick to the script. Yeah. Heat a moment. Things got out of hand. I'm sorry.
But are you that worried about him and
Yes.
his personality
Yes.
that you need him to stick to the script?
Yes.
Wow.
Yes.
All right,
Yes.
fair enough.
Yes, absolutely. And that's not just him. That's for any professional athlete because a lot of these athletes sometimes get diarrhea of the mouth and just start talking. And sometimes it turns into word salad. Sometimes they try to over-explain and them over-explaining, they just make it sound even worse. Stick to the script. That's why these people are hired. That's why you got them on your payroll. Let them do their job. Shoot, I watch a lot of First 48. And what happens on First 48, 9 times out of 10, the guy or gal is in the interrogating room. And instead of doing what you should do if you're caught up in that situation, is just say, lawyer, they start trying to explain what happened. And then they end up in jail because guess what? You just confessed to the crime. Just say lawyer and let the lawyer do their job. So, Jamar Chase, let your PR team give you a nice little 2-word sentence. You practice 2-word sentence, you say 2-word sentence. Stick to the script.
All right. Well, you got time.
I don't have time, but I'll probably come back if you're talking about a certain quarterback up there in my beloved
No,
hometown.
we don't talk bad about quarterbacks in Cleveland here. No, I know that's next. That's coming up next.
I got enough time to go cut a commercial.
Go cut a commercial. Justin Kinner Show, maybe with Kev Nash when we come back. We'll be right back.
Advocates, real solutions for real people.
Must qualify for enrollment. Results may vary.
All right, and we are back at the Justin Kinner Show presented by Frickers. Frickers, your home for fun, food, sports, and spirits. Yeah, pretty much the entire show today has just been about the Bengals and Jamar Chase and more coming out about that because of the press conference right now. So Kev just popped in. Look, so Jamar Chase was not made available to the media today. He had nothing to say. I have a problem with that. Like, I just feel like if you spit on another human being, and I'm not justifying this, I'm just saying you clearly got enraged enough to spit on somebody else. So we know that that's not just something that you do. You just don't go walking around spitting on people. We know that you got angry to the point where you did that, which means there's only one thing you can say that's going to diffuse the situation, and that is, yeah, my bad. I was embarrassed by it, which is why I lied in the post game. I am ashamed of the way I handled myself. I have to be better at that, and I will be moving forward. And then guess what? I think a lot of this gets brushed under the rug. I disagree with Kev, and Kev, I'll tell him when he comes back in respectfully. I disagree with Kev because I just think that the longer you go without saying anything, the worse he looks. And I think he already looks pretty bad, but there's only one thing you need to say. And if he doesn't want to say it because he doesn't mean it, then that means he's an even worse human being than what we thought. So you would think that you feel bad enough that, man, I am so embarrassed. I need to get in front of a mic. I need to apologize. That's not who I am. But he truly feels like he was justified in it, and that's what it comes across. That's the problem I have. I disagree. I think he needs to address the media, and I think he should have been the first one at the podium today to say, yeah, I want to just address this, because it has become now he's even more selfish because this is basically taking all the attention away from the team. Not that there's any good attention that's coming towards the team right now without the losing anyways, but what if they would have won yesterday and this would have happened? What if they would have won yesterday and this would have happened? We'd be talking about this instead of the win. I just think that this is not the type of behavior or the after, the aftershocks, if you will, that we should be getting from a guy that's making $40 million a year. So I am curious. Are you guys fine? 937-518-1410. Kev says he doesn't think he needs to address the media right now. I think that he does. Where are you guys with that? I believe he does because I think that this isn't a hard thing. You're sorry, right? You shouldn't have done that, right? You let your temper and emotions get the best of you, right? This isn't difficult. I don't even think a PR team needs to write common sense bullet points for him to use. I think that should just be your natural, coming down off of that temper, right? When you're coming down, it's man, I can't believe I did that. I just don't understand how he cannot address the media today. Oh, he's embarrassed by it. Okay, then say that. Hey, I can't believe what I did yesterday. I'm still embarrassed by it. I'm still coming to terms with what I did yesterday. I'm so sorry. Us as humans who make mistakes every day would sympathize with that and be like, all right, let's move on. He's going to be suspended and move on. But I think that saying nothing is way louder than anything he could have said today. I think not addressing the media was wrong. And it's not when I say address the media, he doesn't owe the media like me an apology, or James Rapine or Jay Morrison or anything like that. He doesn't owe them an apology, but the media, apologize to your fans. A couple weeks ago, there was a fan that I think was terminally ill, if I'm not mistaken, and he went and met with them on the sideline, and he gave him a jersey and he gave him shoes and he took a picture, and it's that's the Jamar Chase we should be talking about, not the guy that spits on other people. And I have a huge problem with, yes, that he did it, but I would have not less of a problem. We'd all be able to mentally move on. Just come on, apologize. Why is that so hard? Jamar's a good dude. We know that. We know he has flaws. We're all good people. We all have flaws. Some flaws worse than others with certain people. But I just don't get why it's so hard to come to the media and apologize, because you should naturally feel. Now's the time, while you're in your feelings, is now the time that the emotion should be coming through in the apology. Because if I see him go to a podium and read a PR statement of spitting is bad, I'm bad, I spit no more, sorry, and then move on, I see there's zero sympathy in that. There's zero, I don't know. I'm a vibes guy. That's bad vibes, if you ask me. And I think it's very bad vibes today that he didn't address anything. Let's go to AJ. AJ, thanks for holding. You're on live, sir.
Hey, Justin. Just real quick on this. As a Bengals fan, I feel really disappointed in Jamar, almost like a father figure does. I'm 42 years old. I'm probably double the age. I could probably be as old as his father. And it's one of those scenarios where I can tell by his reaction when he was originally addressed about it, and they asked him if he spit, and his first response was, "I've never opened my mouth to that man." Any other answer besides no means yes, I did it, and at that point, you own up to it. I'm sorry. Like you said, I got my feelings. This is a tough game. We're out there battling. but anything else is disingenuous. If he goes up and reads a PR statement, that's not going to make anything better. And he really owes it to the fans and who he represents. I coach wrestling.
Okay.
8, 9, 10, 11, 12-year-old kids. It's not too dissimilar from being a receiver. Receivers are out on islands. You're battling mano a mano, you're safety or a corner. You're jarring back and forth. It's physical. You're creating discomfort. You want to make someone just seethe, and you do everything that you can do. And in wrestling, people talk smack. I've been in matches before where I'm ear to ear with someone, and I've got an opponent talking about my mama and how he's dominating me and what he's going to do to my mom, and stuff like that. Never is it acceptable to lose your composure to the point where you spit on someone else, man. And it honestly comes down to a maturity thing and an entitlement thing, to be honest with you. I think that's something that, receivers kind of get labeled as divas, and a lot of it comes down to maturity. Yeah. It comes down to maturity and entitlement. And I just think, it was very disappointing to see, like you said, we see the one side of Jamar where he's going out and doing charitable things, but we really show our true selves when we're in areas that it's tough to be in. And he wasn't getting the receptions. Jalen Ramsey is probably the best smack talker in the NFL. And I'm sure he was getting underneath his skin, but it's not acceptable. And it's, like I said, it's really disappointing.
I think
I'm sure he's really ashamed.
AJ, real quick on that too, like Jalen Ramsey, I remember when I first saw the social media reaction to this fight and this incident, Jalen Ramsey was the bad guy. Everything that people are saying about Jamar Chase, people were saying about Jalen Ramsey. Like, my gosh, he just can't act like that. Because keep in mind, at the timing of this, I mean, Jalen Ramsey looked like an idiot because it's like, my goodness, this is a must-win game for both teams who are striving to stay at the top of that division race right now. And your best, lockdown defensive back is going to be ejected from the game for fighting. Like, grow up. Like, what is wrong with you? Everyone said, man, Jamar Chase won that. He won the mind game and he got him out of the game. And then come to find out the real villain was Jamar Chase. That was a big turn of, events from the beginning of the game to the end when all the details started coming out.
Yeah, it just showed you that there's two sides to every story. And I'll be honest with you, I was impressed with the composure that Jalen Ramsey had after that. That all he did, they called it a punch. He pushed his face mask. It wasn't a punch. He's lucky. Jamar Chase is lucky that Jalen Ramsey didn't go more wild than that. Because if he's going to get ejected, you're going to get ejected. So why not do everything that you can to make it even worse? I don't know. I just, like I said, just as a Bengals fan, it's just really disappointing. Obviously, the season is disappointing, but to see your stars act like that are the face of your franchise, again, kind of going back to what I said weeks ago about Zach Taylor and just and then I hate to turn it back to the coaching, but this is a higher level thing of discipline that you have with your players when you've got these 20-year-olds that need to be taught how to be mature and disciplined, and it's not there.
See, this is like, and AJ, this is where I'll slightly disagree. Like, when I'm 20 and I don't have the resources he does, I have less people who are patient with me than he does. And that's why I don't feel bad for him. Like, at some time, like, he's not a rookie or a second-year player in the league. He's a veteran. He should know better. This is like a human being thing. It's not he's a young NFL player. Like, you just can't act like that no matter what. And if you don't get it making $40 million a year and 6 years in the league and you don't get it now, I don't think he's ever going to get it at that point. So who knows? But we'll see. That's the thing. If he comes out and apologizes, it's just over with and we move on, right? Like, I don't want to say we move on, but like, it definitely diffuses a lot of the talk. But right now, I think saying nothing is more. I think it's louder than anything he would say. So, who knows?
Well, he got caught in a stone cold face lie. I mean, a picture is worth 1,000 words. Everyone saw what happened. I mean, we have, like Kev said, once the 4K video came out, you can't dispute that. And then to come out and lie about it, at that point, you just own up to it and move on.
Agreed. But hey, man, I appreciate you waiting on hold and calling in as always, man. Appreciate it.
Later, Justin.
937-518-1410. That's the number to call and jump in on the conversation. But yeah, at the end of the day, I do think that him saying nothing is a problem. And by the way, I thought the last caller made a good point. It was about apologizing to the fans. So when I said he needs to apologize to the media, I don't mean like apologize to Jay Morrison, apologize to James Rapine or those guys. I mean, like he needs to his apology needs to be made to the media so that the media can get it out to everybody, so that you, the fans, because you, the fans, are who he owes an apology to. He's the role model. He's the athlete. He's the guy who everyone buys his jersey and buys the tickets to go watch play. Look, I think Jamar Chase is probably, if you think about this, like T. Higgins is one of the most popular players. All right. I think Jamar Chase, even more so than Joe Burrow, I think Jamar Chase is the most influential athlete in Cincinnati. Am I wrong in that? Do you agree or disagree? Ellie De La Cruz is super popular, but when I go to baseball games, I don't see anybody trying to emulate his style. Joe Burrow, people try to emulate a little of his style and stuff, but like Jamar Chase, like the gritty, like the dancing, the everything he does, you know what I mean? Like Jamar Chase, like people want to be Jamar Chase. I think he's the most influential athlete in Cincinnati. Joe Burrow is the most popular athlete in Cincinnati and very influential. Don't get me wrong. I think Jamar Chase is the most influential athlete in this area. That's why I think it's important that he apologizes. Is because it's not like at 36 years old, I'm going to go around spitting on people because, well, I saw Jamar Chase do it, so I did it. But kids will. And I'm not saying that they're going to go to school today and are spitting on everybody, but I'm just saying, like, in the heat of the moment, oh man, I handled that the way Jamar Chase handled that. Like, like I said, I don't think that kids are going to start spitting everywhere because they saw Jamar Chase do it. But man, he's a role model whether he wants to be or not. He's an influential athlete. He's the most popular, one of the most popular, the second most popular athlete in Ohio. I think it's Joe Burrow, Jamar Chase, Ellie De La Cruz. I think in that order. I think those are the three most popular athletes. I don't for you add the other sports. I don't think Jose Ramirez for the Guardians is as influential as those guys. I don't think, Ellie's super popular. I think he's the third most. I don't think anyone on the Cleveland Cavaliers. I like the Cavs, but I don't think Donovan Mitchell is influential. I don't think, you know what I mean? Like, I like that team, but I don't think, who am I missing? I think Jamar Chase is the most influential and second most popular player in the entire state. That's why I think he owes an apology. And I think it's absolutely horrendous that he just decided not to say anything today. A guy that always has something to say has nothing to say today when we all know what there is to say. He doesn't even need to explain it. It's not like we're all sitting here saying, man, I wonder why he did it. We're all just sitting here saying, where's the apology, dude? Like, we could all move on from this very quickly. Whether you were a fan of Jamar or not, we could all move on very quickly. Just apologize. Because he's influential. And I think that was a bad look for so many reasons yesterday, nonetheless. All right. Let's talk about old Shedeur. Shedeur Sanders. I tell you what, he didn't look good. But the things that he did do well yesterday, I will take that any day of the week over what we've seen to this point from Dylan Gabriel. It was not a good performance from Shedeur yesterday. But Shedeur, in quite a few throws, proved why he's the better quarterback despite the horrible stat line. We'll discuss when we come back. Agree or disagree. Think about that during the break. We'll take your calls, your reaction on the Justin Kinder Show Facebook page. All of that coming up when we come back.
Just how good is Pure Talk's current deal for unlimited wireless?
home for fun food, sports, and spirits, Frickers.
Justin Kinner back with you here on a Monday. 937-518-1410. That's the number to call and jump in on the conversation. So we were waiting for it. There's a couple things of breaking news that has come out over the last 10 minutes, but we'll do this one first because we've spent a lot of time on it today. So Jamar Chase has officially been suspended. Jamar Chase, the Cincinnati Bengals wide receiver Jamar Chase has been suspended without pay for one game for an act of unsportsmanlike conduct during Sunday's game against the Pittsburgh Steelers. Let's just call it what it is. He's being suspended without pay for one game because he spit on another human being. Now they have to water it down and say, oh, it was just an act of unsportsmanlike conduct because they probably know that the one game is he should probably be suspended more. So Chase will be eligible to return to the Bengals active roster on Monday, November 24th. So maybe that kind of, I don't know if he was notified of his suspension earlier today and he wasn't allowed in the building today. I don't know how this works, but the team will again he'll be able to resume team activities starting on the 24th after their November 23rd game against the New England Patriots. And see, that's the other thing. Like, what if the Browns would have upset the Ravens yesterday and it would have still been wide open? Like technically, the Bengals are still in this. Jamar, this is what last thing on this. Guys, for years I've told you I'm just not a Jamar Chase guy because I think that his antics get old, and this is the bad antics of all bad antics, right? But it drives me nuts because I think he's a very selfish human being. Like, look at Joe Burrow. Joe Burrow is fighting like crazy to come back from this injury. He's fighting like crazy to come back early. Like, this team is probably not going to make the playoffs, but Joe Burrow wants to get out there. He's doing everything he can to get back early because he's a leader and he's trying to get back out there. Jamar Chase, which is with as much as he values Joe Burrow, should be doing everything he can to emulate that type of personality to be a leader out on the field. And I don't like the Bengals' chances against the Patriots, even with Jamar Chase, but my goodness, they have zero shot now of beating the Patriots without Jamar Chase. Zero. New England, and I didn't take a look at this earlier. So New England's an 8.5-point favorite this weekend. I don't know if that line shifted or not since the Jamar Chase news. I have no idea. If any of you saw the line earlier today and it has moved, let me know, because it's sitting at 8.5 as we sit here right now. But that's just not good on his end. So either way. Forrest on Facebook says Coach Kevin looked mad that he had to play Sanders. Yeah, I tell you what. Here's something else I'm willing to budge on. I thought it was absolutely crazy to think that a team as desperate as Cleveland is for a quarterback would do everything they could to sabotage a talented quarterback in a quarterback room. But the Shedeur Sanders thing is weird. It all feels weird. It does feel like there's a major disconnect between Kevin Stefanski and Shedeur Sanders. And I will say this. Shedeur Sanders had the lowest QB rating of any quarterback in the league yesterday. He played pretty much the entire second half. It was not good, right? We know this. But I do know this is why if the Cleveland Browns are exact proof of the whole concept of making numbers sing and dance, because Dylan Gabriel's numbers from an efficiency standpoint, Dylan Gabriel, sure, more efficient than Shedeur Sanders off a small sample size of 1/2 of football. But this is why I don't like Stefanski's obsession with bragging about how good Dylan Gabriel plays, because he doesn't turn the ball over. I will take a quarterback that is a little bit more risky with the football, that can actually produce scoring drives and this, that, and the other, than a quarterback who doesn't give you any opportunity of that. And just because, he doesn't turn the ball over. Yeah, but how many 3-and-outs has Dylan Gabriel let? You watch the game, Dylan Gabriel, he's not an NFL quarterback. There's nothing about him that makes you think that this offense it can be run by him. And I started thinking, well, Joe Flacco didn't look great in this offense, and he went to an offense that's good. And now look at him. Maybe Dillon Gabriel's being held back. Dillon Gabriel is being held back because this offense isn't very good. But Shedeur has his own set of deficiencies that they have to work through. But I feel like his ceiling is so significantly higher that I'm having a hard time really sitting back and justifying Kevin Stefanski's actions because I'm over the Dillon Gabriel experience. And this is coming after a game where we saw Shedeur Sanders only complete 4 of his 16 pass attempts for 47 yards, and yes, threw an interception. Pocket presence wasn't great, but the pocket isn't great either. Pocket's not good for Dillon Gabriel either. Shedeur Sanders, no first-team reps. I'm not going to be Josina Anderson and literally cry every single tear that I could possibly produce like she does. He didn't get a lot of first-team reps. In fact, he didn't get any first-team reps. The first time he's ever worked with the first team was when he got thrown out into the game yesterday with the first-team guys. So some NFL guys on social media are coming out saying that that's normal. Others aren't. Whatever. I think it's a team by team, coach by coach, scenario. I do know having two. I mean, I could be wrong. Is there any other team in the NFL that has a quarterback that has a rookie starting quarterback and a rookie backup quarterback? I don't think that there is. So I don't think Cleveland is a good example. Like a lot of them, like when I think it was Cam Newton talking about, he got, as a rookie, he was getting first team reps even with the veteran backup quarterback. Yeah, because the rookie veteran quarterback dynamic, that makes sense. Stefanski tried explaining this earlier in the season that the reason Dillon Gabriel, so at the beginning of the season, you had Joe Flacco and Dillon Gabriel behind him, right? Dillon Gabriel was getting first team reps at the beginning. And then when Dillon Gabriel became the starter, he got every rep and Shedeur's getting no reps. And Kevin Stefanski's explanation for that, and I understood it, whether you agree with it or not. You don't have to agree with everything a coach says, but you have to at least learn to respect the NFL, a 2-time coach of the year, their justification for it. He said at the beginning, Joe Flacco doesn't need every rep. Joe Flacco's been in the league 20 years. He's won a Super Bowl MVP. He doesn't need every single rep. So there was reps to spare for Dillon Gabriel. Dillon Gabriel is a rookie quarterback. There are no reps to spare. He needs every ounce of experience possible. So there's really no reps to spare with Shedeur Sanders. That's not just a Kevin Stefanski take. Many coaches and many former players have come out and said the same thing. Now, to be fair, there's other players that have come out, Cam Newton and others, to say, hey, that's actually not how it goes. Okay, not every coach operates the same. Not every organization does. It is Cleveland, so you're not going to get the benefit of the doubt because it's Cleveland, and it's not like they're a quarterback factory by any means. So it's not like, hey, we run things this way around here. That's not really a vote of confidence for anybody. Let's just put it that way. I do know that the tone of which Kevin Stefanski, in which he talks about Shedeur, it does not come across as a coach who is absolutely enamored with his quarterback. I mean, Zach Taylor gushes over Joe Burrow, as he should. Right? All these coaches, that's not the case in this situation. Kevin Stefanski will call Dillon Gabriel by his name. I haven't heard him say Shedeur once. It's like there is a weird dynamic there. As far as my thoughts on Shedeur yesterday, obviously a guy that has not had any first team reps. It's not an excuse, but that plays a role in this, yes. If he does start this weekend against the Raiders and looks that poor after an entire week with the first team, and by the way, even then you could say, well, okay, it's 1 week with the first team, 7 weeks, 12 weeks into the season. What are we doing here? But the bottom line is that was the first time he had ever gone out onto the field with any of those guys. So I'll take that into account. He made mistakes that was on the draft grade coming in about, the pocket presence and, scrambling a little too soon. But guys, look at the throws he did make, though. There were a couple of key drops. There was a couple of balls that were right in the hands of the receivers that they just dropped, which they do for every quarterback. I get that. But he made deep throws down the field. He made plays down the field with his legs. He extended drives. I was content with what I saw from Shedeur yesterday. I haven't been content with one outing of Dillon Gabriel once. He can't throw the football. The offense is stale. It's horrendously bad with Dillon Gabriel. And it may not be great with Shedeur, but at least you feel like there's a chance. And the bottom line is you have to know. You have to know. And I don't know how, I mean, yes, he only completed 4 passes yesterday, but I still thought overall the offense looked better with Shedeur than Dylan Gabriel. It looked messier with Shedeur Sanders, but they were moving the football at least. As far as Dylan Gabriel goes, they don't move the football and it looks cleaner. But again, you're running in place at that point. I don't know. I'm over the Dylan Gabriel experience, and I want to be shown that Shedeur is this horrendous quarterback that the coaching staff wants you to believe. Like I said, there's coming into this season, I said a couple things. If Shedeur Sanders and Dylan Gabriel are horrible, that's a good thing. If they are horrible, that's a good thing. If one of them is great, that's a great thing. If one or both are average, that's the worst case scenario. The worst case scenario is any of these two quarterbacks looking average. Because that's where you risk running in place. That's where you risk falling in love. And that's where you risk making a bad decision in next year's draft. Because if Shedeur really is this bad and Dylan Gabriel really is this bad, it makes your decision easy come draft time next April. But if Shedeur is average and you think you have something there, but you also don't think you have something there, and then you talk yourself into, well, Shedeur with the full camp of first-team reps and everything else, and we go get him more help, and then we use our first-round picks on other positions, and then come to find out that Shedeur is not it, and Mendoza ends up being a superstar, and you didn't take a quarterback, and now you look back like you're damned if you do, damned if you don't. So the best case scenario for the Browns is one of these two is great. Second best case scenario is both of these quarterbacks are butt cheeks. The worst case scenario is one of them's average or both are average, because then you don't know what you have. But that's on the front office, that's on ownership, that's on Stefanski, that's on any decision maker when it comes to the draft, that's on them. Simple as that. All right. I'm Justin Kinner. It's the Justin Kinner Show presented by Frickers. Frickers, your home for fun food, sports, and spirits. Appreciate you guys hanging out today. Heated show because of everything that was going on with Jamar Chase, who is suspended. He will be suspended an entire week without pay. He will not play against the Patriots. The Bengals are an 8.5-point dog. Bengals trying to fight to stay alive in the AFC North championship race, division race, but I just think a very selfish decision of Jamar Chase to spit on another human being, for one, that's gross. Two, it was selfish because you know you're going to get suspended for it. And now he's suspended, and now a team that has such a thin margin for error as it is now without their starting quarterback and their number one wide receiver. But I tell you what, I do love the idea of Joe Flacco and T. Higgins going out and balling out against this New England Patriots team. I do love the prospect of what that would do for morale and what that would do for a big picture when it comes to the makeup of this team. You know, because I do remember saying, hey, you don't need T. Higgins. You just need Jamar Chase. But I also remember saying, hey, if for a team that's always low on money, keeping Joe Burrow and Jamar Chase is more expensive than keeping Joe Burrow and T. Higgins. I'm just saying. You don't need someone like that in that locker room. You don't need a diva who is giving double birds to the opponent, spitting on the opponent. When things aren't going well, calls the head coach by his first name. I don't know. Hey, Jamar, how come you're not getting the ball today? I don't know. Ask Zach. The disrespectful antics have piled up way too many times for me. I'm over Jamar Chase, and I'm pulling for the Bengals like you would never believe. I would love to see the Bengals with Joe Flacco and T. Higgins go out and single-handedly beat the Patriots this coming up weekend. I don't think you need the selfish Jamar Chase. He's the best receiver in football, no doubt. But with all his antics, is he worth the $40 million? I say no. Not when you have a T. Higgins. Joe Burrow, one of the best quarterbacks in football. He can win games with T. Higgins being his number one wide receiver. And imagine how much better this team would be with $40 million that they could put on the defensive side of the ball. Average defense with Joe Burrow and T. Higgins. That's winning that AFC North the way it's built right now. I don't know why we have to have this this conversation as if, oh no, there's no way we can live in a world without Jamar Chase. Yeah, you can. There's plenty of guys that you can get that can spit on other human beings and give them the double bird for a lot cheaper than $40 million if that's your thing. Until tomorrow, it's the Justin Kinner Show presented by Frickers. Frickers, your home for fun, food, sports, and spirits.
Bye.